Yo, what up, high and wide fam? It's your resident degenerate, Ducko Dave, and a member of hockey's royal family, Zak Kindrachuk. Zach, how you doing tonight, man?
Hey, what's going on, buddy?
I'm doing all right. Hey, we got a win to talk about.
We got a win to talk about, a
Yeah.
decisive win.
Yeah, it wasn't even close, man. We took care of business tonight.
And it was, how about that Yays, Tippett, Kate's line? Or Hayes,
Oh,
sorry. What did I say? Yays, Jesus. Yeah, that's going to be the new thing. I was trying to think of a good acronym for them, but everything that I came up with isn't working. I'm going to work on a nickname because that line is something to watch for the last few games here we have in the season. Hopefully.
well, it's interesting because a lot of people talk about Hayes having the worst contract on the Flyers roster, but he's looked good for the last 2-3 weeks.
He's got
healthy now.
17 points in his last 13 games or something like that.
Yeah, it's amazing what a guy can do when he's healthy.
Yeah, once he's got his abdomen issues or whatever he had to deal with worked out, he's a quality player.
Yeah, 19 surgeries later, one by
19 surgeries later, yeah. And then you inject that with this youth, Tippett and Cates, who what do they have to lose? Shoot.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. Cates, I heard a reference today comparing Cates to Justin Williams, who's like one of my dad's weirdly favorite players of all time.
Oh yeah, he talked about that a couple nights ago.
He did. He's a big fan of Justin Williams. And Cates is, but there's some guys that seem to, the puck follows them, and Cates seems to be one of those guys. And that sort of goal that he scored tonight, not a sniper goal, not a skilled goal, just knowing where you should be, where the puck's going to be. And he put it away for his second goal. And Tippett's goal was just a product of shooting. He just shot. And you got a guy playing Elvis. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, but this guy's been playing a ton. And he's just been overworked. So when you have an overworked goalie, the best thing you can do is just put as many pucks on net as possible. And that's what the Flyers did tonight. There wasn't really, with this team, there's always been, even with their wins, someone who's been disappointing. Not this game. Everybody played well. Everybody played cohesive. It was the most fun I've had watching the Flyers game in quite a while. I know they had that Blues game where they beat them 5-2, but there was just kind of that post-Giroux sadness attached to that. And it just felt really fluky. This game, it seemed like, oh my God, we do have an NHL product that we can put out on the ice.
Yeah, I was happy with Tippett, man. Like you said, he shoots, which is what we needed when we brought him in. And it was what people talked about, that he was a guy that puts the puck on the net. And this team, for the longest time, always seemed to have too many passers, guys that never wanted to finish. So having a guy
on Columbus right now,
having a guy that gets the puck at the net is great.
It is. Sanheim played great. Sanheim finally we get to see him on the power play again. Not in the most expansive role as I'd like to see, but I thought Sanheim had a really, really strong game on both ends of the ice. And I usually think of him as primarily an offensive defenseman, but he made some really key defensive plays tonight as well. Again, it was fun to see Taryn and Al actually have some positive things to talk about during the intermission. And usually they just have to fill. I always like it when people don't have to rely on my podcast to have Flyers like positive moments. I always celebrate a win. And I know that this has been a really tough season, but if we start to see guys that are going to be on the roster next year that are going to make a difference in these last few games that we have, that's going to lead to some positivity going into the summer. And man, I'm seeing it so far. Owen Tippett hasn't been great. Ronnie Attard has been mediocre. He had a better game tonight, certainly. But now that he's playing and we're seeing what Noah Cates can possibly do, and there's a couple free agents that we might add in the postseason. I don't know. I'd rather leave the season this way than going on another 11-game losing streak and tanking.
Oh, I can feel the optimism and hope coming off of you, Zach.
Yeah, I know, because I fucking overreact to everything. Right?
I can feel it coming off of you.
Yeah, but it's just like because I hate the word tanking. I hate it, and there's no one worth tanking for this offseason anyway. Shane Wright's going to be probably a decent NHL player, and he's the obvious number one overall pick. And
I think his ceiling is John Tavares. Like that's his ceiling. Like
that would be a great ceiling.
Yeah, but that's like like his best. Like that's
Yeah,
like the 0.1%. Like that's his absolute ceiling.
sure. Not
Yeah.
worth, and no players were tanking over.
Yeah.
And because we once got the best player in the world, arguably, when we got Lindros, and we gave up incredible chips for him, and look at how it turned out. But I'd rather see this season end on a high note. I don't I every time the team is on the ice, I'd like to see them go for a win. I don't care how their lottery odds go up or down. I'd rather see them go out and do what they did tonight, which was beat a very beatable Columbus Blue Jackets team. And you can imagine, like, it's looking back at the Giroux trade now, you wonder if we just should have done it much earlier, because clearly there was discontent amongst him and the rest of the organization. We wanted to see him get his 1,000th game, but he was preventing a lot of other people from coming up, and a lot of players that we're now seeing on the ice and seeing what we can do, because we were just clinging to that Giroux era. And now we're moving on to a new era. The new era might suck. It might, but
it can't
we're
be
gonna
worse than
find
we
out.
just left. Yeah, it can't be worse than what we were leaving behind the last 10
Can't be.
years or so. Yeah. There's no way it can be worse than what we're leaving behind.
And how good did Martin Jones play tonight, by the way?
Yeah, for real. Honestly, if Hart Jones come back as a tandem next year, I have no issues with that at all.
I don't really either, because we're gonna get Jones at a bargain basement price.
Yeah.
And Sandstrom could probably deal with another year in the AHL. He's still pretty young. And I would be fine with that. Martin Jones, I think a lot of NHL teams would be fine with him as a backup. Carter Hart, for me, should play at least 65 games next year. I think it's time to really start extending how much we put him out there, because that's when you look back at really great teams over the past 20 years, these guys played a lot more than Carter Hart is playing. Tonight, I thought Carter Hart should have played. And I understand it's towards the end of a lost season, but it's this guy can handle it. And the more you get him out there, the more you get him reps. I feel like, especially if the team's going to go out and play the way that they did for him for the Martin Jones tonight, it's just going to build his confidence. And every minute he spends on the ice as an NHL goaltender, I think is just going to make him better.
That's almost like the thought process of a bygone era, though. Like, there's not really any more workhorse goalies anymore. Like it just doesn't happen.
But there's not that many teams that count on their goalie as much as the Flyers do.
I mean, you're right. I'm not arguing your point. I'm just saying that today's philosophy in the NHL is, you rest your goalie, you have a 1A, you have a 1B. That's how most teams seem to approach it, which I think can make things awkward when it gets to the playoffs. Because when it comes to the playoffs, you want to ride one guy. Like, that's who you want. But, during the regular season, teams are scared to play their guy more than 55, 60 games a season.
I don't really just agree with that philosophy. I think, like, you got a guy in Carter Hart that can handle it. Yeah, it'd be one thing if he were 32. He's 23 going on or he's 24. Play this guy. Yeah, he can handle the workload, I think. And we've just seen this year the extraordinary saves that he's made, even though he's been hung out to dry so many times. I'm ready for a 65-game Carter Hart season. I'm ready for it. And I think he's ready for it.
Yeah, let him be the stud that we talked about him being. Like, there's been hype around him for 5-6 years now. Let him be the stud that he's supposed to be.
9 years, if you're a scout. Like, everybody's known this guy has been something special.
Yes, we're not all Bob Strom. I got it. We're not all Strom. Yeah. but the hype that's been around this guy, let him go be the stud that he's supposed to be. Just let him go. Let him go do his job. And you know what? If we don't bring Martin Jones back, bring in some 38-year-old veteran goalie that'll just give him some advice, talk to him, calm him down when he needs to calm him down, and then go win some games against some cellar dwellers. Like, I would have no problem with Carter Hart playing 65 to 70 games next year.
No, I'm totally into it. Like, if he looks tired, then, or if he tells you he's tired, take him out. But I don't think he's ever going to say that. And I don't think he's going to get that exhausted. I think he can do that. Bernie Perrant did that. Bernie Perrant, like, you know how badly he took care of his body? And he was able to do that. Pete Peters did it. Bob Froese did it. These are guys that did not have the physical abilities that Carter Hart did. and didn't have the sort of training staff that Carter Hart does, like the ways to repair your body after a game with the oxygen tanks and whatever other things that they're able to do. I would lead next year with Carter Hart as my star, and then start to add other pieces.
Yeah.
And Strummer and I talked about some of those pieces that may or may not come to Philadelphia, but I'm again, because I overreact to everything. After tonight's win, I was like, this was an NHL team that beat another NHL team, and that's great because sometimes it's feel like we've been an AHL team that's lost to a bad NHL team, gotten smoked by a bad NHL team, and tonight they felt it. For me, it felt like a group of guys who were actually out there playing for one another. You saw what you wanted to see because these kids came up and actually were productive tonight. You saw a line connect like the way that Hayes, Tippett, and Cates did, that we've been looking for that all year. We really haven't had like this one line that connected all year long. And, there's been great lines in Flyers past, that deserved nicknames, Crazy Eights, LCB line. And, let's just say we go 3 or 4 games here and Hayes, Tippett, and Cates put up points. Man, that does bring optimism into the offseason.
Now, here's the thing with that line. Hayes and Tippett are pretty much guaranteed spots next season. Cates is the one that I would be worried about them deciding like, oh, he needs more seasoning, set him back down. You know what I mean? Like Tippett has the pedigree of being a first-round draft pick. Hayes is a proven NHL veteran. Cates, even if that line is working, Cates would be the one that could send back down.
Yeah, and they probably will because they make all the wrong decisions. But if you
break,
idiots, they're dumb,
stupid idiots.
But who's been better? He's replaced by who? That's the thing that they're going to have to look at.
Oh, so some veteran they signed for the veteran minimum for $600K for the year.
I don't know if the Flyers are going to do that again. I think they learned their Yandel lesson. I don't think that they're really willing to just accept the bare minimum. As bad as this ownership group is, I think that they're committed to spending money in this offseason, because I do truly believe, as ignorant as Dave Scott is, he heard the message with the paper bags or whatever it was, that Flyers fans are fed up. And I know personally several season ticket holders that are not going to re-sign until there's some sort of plan in place. And that goes both on Scott and, of course, Chuck Fletcher. And I don't think that plan in place would be signing somebody like a Yandel contract. It's just, that's not going to be acceptable this year.
I think what truly had a big impact was the Claude Giroux 1000 game. In what was an absolute dismal season, that one game was a huge event, and the fans showed out. And I think they sent a message that when Flyers hockey is a big deal, they'll be there, and the atmosphere and the energy and the attitude will show up. So it was Giroux's send-off. It was his farewell. But I think that sent a message to the organization, at least I hope it did, that, hey, listen, this is what Flyers hockey can be. Like, give us a reason to be here, and we'll be here.
Yeah, make it be something besides marketing. Make it a milestone, like a real milestone. 1,000 games for one franchise when you play at a very high level is remarkable. And I'm the biggest Giroux critic, but I'm also a very big Giroux praiser, because he's a top 5 Flyer all time without a doubt, but also needed to move on. But it was sad to see him move on. And I always just have this opinion: as soon as you move on, screw you. I hope the Panthers lose 4-0 in the first round. But I won't be sad. I also picked the Panthers to come out of the Eastern Conference. I think they're 7-1 since he joined the team. He's got 9 points. He just scored his first goal, and it was a beauty. He obviously is going to add something to that team. But if the Flyers have something worth showcasing, whether it be a product or or somebody who's achieving something that's meaningful, and going back, Keith Yandel's Iron Man streak to me was not meaningful at all. It would have been, and I think you brought this up, Dave, if he had been a Flyer for 6 or 7 years, but dude's been just a lousy player for like 70 games. So
yeah, we brought him in.
Yeah.
He played terrible. We let him get his record. Like,
Yeah,
like,
we permitted him to get his record.
yeah, absolutely. Now, the one thing I will say is we scratched him and then put him in the lineup the next game. Like, that's fucked up. Like, dude, like, listen, I'm not gonna lie. If you're gonna end the man's streak, just put him on vacation. Like, let him just go.
It was a weird decision, but it was a decision that should have been made 27 games ago.
No, exactly. It should have been made exactly. It should have been made 27 games ago. But if you're going to scratch the man and end his streak, just send him to the golf course. Why the fuck was he back in the lineup the next game?
I guess I don't know. Like Mikey was just sitting there, and it's Connaughton, Yandle. It's like I don't know. He just throws a dart. Who cares? And then Kevin Connaughton scores his first goal tonight in 3 years. 3 years. That's an amazing. That's an amazing lapse in terms of goal scoring.
Wait, it's so amazing that the Flyers were the end of ending that kind of streak. Because normally we're the team where it's like, oh, that guy hasn't scored in 117 games, and he scored his first goal against
us. Yeah, the Phil Myers of the world. Yeah.
I was in the seats in Colorado when JT Comper had a 2-point night. It was his first 2-point night in like 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah, we've become that team. That's true. But I don't know. I'm still the Yandle. The topic is like Philadelphia's version of Will Smith slap. Like it's just been so over discussed. But I can't find myself feeling too strongly in support of him, and still don't.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm with you. Like you said, it should have ended sooner. He should have been benched sooner. He should have been benched in Florida. He
should have been benched after his first shift of the night he broke the record.
No, he should have been benched even before he broke the record. Like he wasn't an NHL player
for sure. Yeah, based on performance.
Like back in Florida, he shouldn't even have been this close.
No.
But here's my only thing, right? If you let him ride it out this long, and then you go, we're going to bench him because we're going to play these younger guys, or we want to see what anybody else has to do. So you bench him, you end the streak when he's a healthy scratch. You don't play him the next game. That's fucked up. Like that's just stupid. Like, come on. Like, you know what I mean? Listen, this is how the conversation goes, Zach. Zach, hey, listen, Keith, look, man, we got you here. We appreciate what you've done. It's a tremendous record. Thank you so much for your contributions. We appreciate your veteran presence. Thank you so much. We're going to sit you down and listen, man, you're done. Go ahead, go down to Florida, hit the golf course, hit the links, plan a vacation with your family. But we wrap it up, healthy scratch the rest of the year. You don't ruin a man's streak like that and then put him back in the lineup 48 hours later.
Well, Yano could have made the choice to retire too. Like obviously he's still interested in playing games.
Yeah, because
Yano could just said, I'm done. I'm done. This is it. My career is over. Clearly, if he gets another contract next year, it would be miraculous. He could have just said no. So he was clearly like still available to be put on the ice. So I don't know. It's not even like a win-lose situation. It's just who gives a shit about his stupid Iron Man streak. And again, like I just would poise this, and I'm not a tough guy, but I've called out of work sick. If you play the game right, you should just get fucking hurt sometimes. Like every great player, even if you're an elegant player, even if you're just a fourth liner, sometimes you get hurt. Like there's scratches. It's worrisome to me that he played this many games. How many conflicts have you avoided? How many physical plays have you not been involved in just because you wanted to be on the ice next night? I don't know. It's because my dad was hurt all the fucking time, and because he played hard. And even my favorite player of all time is Mario Lemieux, and he had various different reasons for injuries, but I think there's legitimacy to the argument that people who are truly great at this game should miss a few games a year, or at least a few games over a 10-year span, because if you play the game the right way, you're going to get scrapped up enough that you need to sit for a night or two. And again, no offense to Keith. This is I always parse this with, he seems to be the nicest guy ever, but I don't give a shit about that. Get out of town, Keith. Go to Florida.
No, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't think about it. You just brought it up about what you said about calling out sick at work, and somebody should get scrapped up playing hockey. It's
Yeah.
weird. It's weird that it was like they had to it was a big deal to tell him not to come to work, because in my day job, I got dropped on my neck like 8 months ago by a guy that weighed like 270 pounds. Like, I'm a CO, and got in a scruff with an inmate who dropped me on my neck. And management asked me if I was going to come into work the next day. Like, hey, you're good for the next day, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's the exact opposite of what Keith Yandel was doing.
Yeah. Your job is as physical as Keith Yandel's job, easily. Yeah, you should miss days. Jesus. Keith, God bless you. But I don't care if I ever see you in a Flyers uniform again. You mean nothing to me.
Yeah,
I know that you and Hayes are good friends, and friendship means a lot. But friendship should continue whether or not you're wearing the same uniform or not.
And it will. And it will. Keith Hayes and Keith Yandel will still be friends after Keith Yandel leaves the Flyers. So
yeah, I hope so. I would imagine that's the way. But the funny thing is I keep time warping myself back to October when I was just so excited about this team. I was excited. I was like, oh, Yandel's an upgrade on Gostisbehere. I feel like the craziest person thinking that now, looking at what the kind of season that Yandel has put together. And the one thing I will say about Keith is that I don't fault him for what happened this year, but he is indicative of what happened this year in terms of GM decisions, in terms of expectations of players that just never came to fruition. He was a 1-year experiment. We got him his record. Phil Kessel's probably going to break it, which is great because he looks like a hot dog vendor on 4th Avenue in Manhattan.
Phil Kessel is the epitome of blue collar hockey player.
Yeah, I don't even know if he's blue collar. What's the collar below that? He looks like a guy who's constantly he's trying to hit on your sister and asking you if he could borrow $20.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I love everything about Phil Kessel.
I kind of do too.
I really do.
The fact that he's in the league still, and clearly the last time he trained was never. I'm medium chubby, but
wait. The last pick in the NHL All-Star game when they did that team and captain the draft pick thing, he was the last pick. I thought that was cool. Everybody shit on him in Toronto.
But it really shows you how meaningless this record is if he ends up with it. He's not. He's been a quality NHL player, but Doug Jarvis was a pretty lousy player. Gary Unger was good sometimes, but really should have sat for a couple of games. This record is meaningless.
Who has the record for most games played? That's probably a better stat.
It just happened. Is it Chara has now the most games for an NHL defenseman, but I don't know who has most games played overall.
That's probably a better stat for longevity.
I would agree. Yeah, because that means that there's still someone that's valuing you.
Some skill, you know what I mean? You're not out there just to keep a streak alive. You're out there because you're providing stuff. Is it Phil Halsey or Halsey? Phil Halsey?
Oh, fuck. It's Patrick Marleau. That's right.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, Patrick Marleau. Yeah.
And then after that, it's Gordie Howe.
Wait.
And then after that, it's Mark Messier.
Wait,
so these are pretty good players.
Yeah, all three of them actually provided value up until the end of their career. Yeah.
Yeah. And you could argue Gordie Howe probably should have retired earlier than he did. And that doesn't even include his WHA games, which he was just there because and then let me just continue the list. Number 4 is Jaromir Jagr. Number 5 is Ron Francis. Number 6 is Joe Thornton. Number 7 is Zdeno Chara. Number 8 is Mark Recchi. Number 9 is Chris Chelios. Number 10 is Dave Andrechuk.
Yeah,
so this is a different list.
Yeah, games played first as opposed to consecutive games started is very different.
Yeah, really, really different. Yeah, I mean, I could go. I'm trying to find the first non-Hall of Famer. Just got to him. Shane Doan. He's not a Hall of Famer. And then, wow, fucking Rod Brindamore is number 25.
Oh shit.
1,484 games. Yeah, I didn't know he played that much.
I really wish I could have been like a third string goalie in the NHL.
Yeah. Yeah. Because how often would you see the ice?
Yeah, you know what I mean? I would just
you'd collect the paycheck.
Yeah. Dude, I would just bring like soup and orange juice to the starting goalie whenever they said they were sick. Oh, you're not feeling well? Yeah, give me a second, bro. I'll get some honey and some tea. Let me grab some soup real quick.
You'd be every week when I played soccer, there was the one mom who had to bring orange slices.
Yeah, that'd be me.
Yeah, I'd take that job in a second.
Yeah. I'm like, listen, bro, we're playing the Avs tonight. There's no way I'm going out there. Let me get you healthy.
Yeah, everybody coffee orders. Yeah, I would take that gig in a second.
Oh, hell yeah.
So anyway, back to the game. Yeah, this was one of the most decisive wins of the season. And of course, it's meaningless in a sense, but it's also meaningful because we saw that the Giroux era needed to end, and maybe we have some pieces that we can put together. Cam Atkinson, I thought, played solid, and I think the team really played hard for him. And that was nice. It was nice to see that Columbus honored Atkinson before the game. I always do like seeing video tributes, I suppose. I love that Jake Voracek was just a non-factor.
Wait, how long was it? Atkinson was in Columbus for a long time. He played his whole career. Yeah. So he did a number there. So absolutely,
sure.
700 plus games. So yeah, he absolutely deserves a.
He had a 40-goal season. He was. Yeah. There hasn't been a lot of like highlights for the Blue Jackets. They've been a stable franchise, but never extraordinary. And I think that he's been one of the better players.
Strummer's boy, Ricky Nash, that was their big deal.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that Strum and I disagree on. He's a lot of Rick Nash.
I know that's Strummer's boy.
I know. I think Rick Nash was trash. For the size and skill that he had, he should have been a perennial 40-goal scorer. Oh. I don't know. But I'm wrong. I'm wrong 90% of the time, I suppose. Which is still good enough to probably get me on TSN or ESPN. So
you actually mentioned this the game tonight, the win tonight being meaningless. So from a fantasy perspective, I'm a fantasy sports guy. I'm a DFS guy. I'm a DFS guy. One of the things that most DFS players and fantasy players pay attention to is teams that finish the prior season strong, because there's this odd correlation to momentum carrying over from season to season. So teams in the NFL, NHL, the major sports leagues that finish one season strong tend to start the following season strong as well. There's no specific correlation, but it's like a 70% rate that if, one team finishes with a high winning percentage, they're going to start out with a high winning percentage. So I will pay attention to that. If the Flyers wrap up this last month, doing something like, 9-3-3 or something like that, that's something that we should consider, I think, going forward.
Yeah, I love that correlation. It makes sense to me because you start to build a unit, right? That a group of guys that believe that they can win together. And that obviously carries over into the offseason. I'm all about them going all out for wins. Anybody who is rooting for them to lose right now, that's not the kind of fandom that I've ever appreciated. And I just don't really get it. It's not fun. It's not fun to watch your team lose on any given night. So I just don't want to watch that.
Yeah, I mean, I've expressed that before, that I think that you should never root for your team to lose. Like, because once you let losing become routine or settle in, it destroys the culture. You can't become complacent. You can't let losing become acceptable. So you need to play to win the games.
And you can't compare. I know we had the process here with the 76ers, but that's a 12-man roster. And you need to have one player, which we ended up getting, Joel Embiid, who turns things around. It's not the way that works in hockey. And that's why I've really appreciated talking to Bob Strummer. And he used the word reload. You can't just solely focus on draft picks. You're not. It's a huge part, as you mentioned. I think The last 20 NHL Stanley Cup winners, as he mentioned, had 10 draft picks from their
Yep.
team. But that's not in 1 year. That's over several years. And then they
Yep.
also add free agents. There's also nobody is a completely homegrown team.
No.
Except for Pittsburgh, I guess.
No,
There's
not even them. Pittsburgh. My favorite thing about Pittsburgh is they used the trade deadline better than anybody else. The way they built their dynasty light, it wasn't a true dynasty, but the way they kept themselves competitive was acquiring a higher gun every single year at the trade
that is
deadline.
true.
They constantly brought they would keep themselves competitive. They would stay middle of the pack, upper middle of the pack, be competitive. Trade deadline, they would bring in a higher gun every single year, which is they used it better than anybody for the last 10, 12 years, and they were great at it.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, so you can't tank in the NHL the same way you can tank in the NBA. There's no the process in the NHL. So let's, and as I brought up before, like and I just got trashed on Twitter for this. Like once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. Montreal, yeah, they sucked this year, but last year they were in the Stanley Cup fucking finals. Like once you're there, who knows what can happen? You need a hot goalie, which I feel like Carter Hart could become that Marc-Andre Fleury type hot goalie.
The Carter Hart could steal you 2 playoff series.
I think he absolutely could.
If he's on his game, he could carry you to a conference finals, no problem.
If he gets angry enough, and I feel like I can't wait to see just angry Carter Hart, where he gets a little bit of like Ron Hextall in him. I mean, Ron Hextall, the player, not the disastrous GM piece of shit that he was. Dude, but it's I would love. I think that he could do that. And yeah, all you got to do is just be there. Just be there in the playoffs, and who knows what can happen. Why just give up the next couple of seasons for no reason?
I mean, we did it in 2010. We weren't supposed to be there. We slid in on the last game of the season. Brian Boucher won his 4th or 5th win of the regular season. He was 4-20-11 or something like that. Was what he was when he won that game. And we took off with a waiver claim goalie, Michael Layton, and a career backup, Brian Boucher, and made a run to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah.
So like you said,
it can happen.
If you get in, you have a shot. And who do we play that year in the Eastern Conference Finals? The number 7 ranked Montreal Canadiens.
Right.
Yeah. So if you get in, that's what it is. So you need a competitive team. That's it. I hate the idea of tear it down, burn it down, rebuild. Anybody can compete next year, and that's what we should be doing. We should be focused on the next year. I want Paul Holmgren to be our GM again. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I'm still a fan of Briere. I think I want Briere back.
But that's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Because I know you're a fan of Paul Holmgren because he is always about winning that year.
That's all I want. I want to win right now. I'm so sick of goddamn building for the future. I hate being 2 to 3 years away to be 2 to 3 years away. Give me somebody that wants to win a goddamn Stanley Cup right goddamn now.
Yeah, and he does. But so does Briere. And I think Briere might have a better hockey acumen than Paul Holmgren does. So that's
probably.
And also I would say this. I think free agents, when you're talking about bringing people over, would respond better to Briere than they would Holmgren.
Because Holmgren's a bygone era.
Exactly. And Briere understands how to talk to these players.
You're right.
Yeah, we're talking about Johnny Gaudreau is arguably the best unrestricted free agent that this league has seen in 10 years. And obviously he's born in Salem, New Jersey. So he has connections to this region. If we could get him, I feel like it's worth it. Strummer talked me because I didn't think it was, but Strummer talked me into it because that dude rules Calgary right now.
This is like a few years ago when they were talking about Mike Trout going to free agency, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's from the area. The Phillies
he's from Echo, yeah.
Oh, he's from the area. The Phillies
can get him. Echo's shit." And Echo's a terrible place. All you have is a movie theater and a weird ghost of a boy who got hit by a car who dribbles a ball if you honk your horn twice. That's all the Echo has. Salem's actually kind of nice. So maybe he has better memories. I think, and I'm not saying that's going to be a selling point because I have no idea what connection Gaudreau actually has to New Jersey, but I feel like Danny Briere if I'm the Flyers, I fire Chuck at the end of the season. Bring on Briere. Because I think Briere has the ability. He's a more modern player. He understands how to connect with players. And I think that he would be smart enough to understand if you're going to bring someone like Gaudreau on, who's going to make a shitload of money, but it's going to be beyond that. Calgary's to be able to match whatever the Flyers pay them. Calgary's got a ton of cash. Like that franchise is financially successful. But I think Briere is going to understand that he needs to put together a couple of pieces before Gaudreau is going to be interested in this team. So it's like you talk to Gaudreau's agent and say, okay, we're going to bring you on. You want 13 million, 14 million, whatever. Yes, we can work on that. But also you want to win. If Gaudreau doesn't win this year, which I think is definitely a possibility. But he's going to need more. He's going to need more than just the salary, I think, because Calgary could be able to provide the salary. So here's what Briere could promise him: 3 other pieces that he could pepper into this team, which I think Briere could either find from our farm system or through trades or whatever, through another free agent signing. And then Briere could also explain, because that dude could have went back and been a massive star in Montreal, stayed in Philly, and here's what Philly brings you. If you think that you're a superstar now, let me tell you the kind of superstar you could be in Philadelphia. And I don't think that Chuck Fletcher could explain that as well as Danny Briere could. Like, you could become one of the most talked about players in the NHL. And if Gaudreau wants that, then I think Briere could lay that plan out for him better than Fletcher could. I don't think Fletcher could lay that plan out for him at all. So that's why I don't. And I'm just high on Danny Briere
No,
for a
I
number
mean,
of reasons.
you're not wrong, but one of the biggest crimes against sports folklore ever is the fact that the Flyers didn't win that cup in 2010. Because if they had, there would have been a Danny Briere statue put up well before a Nick Foles statue.
Yeah.
That year, the postseason that Danny Briere had that year, he would have taken home the Conn Smythe.
Yeah.
There would have been a statue put out there in front of the Wells Fargo Center, and he would have his number hung up in the rafters had they
Which
won
he
the
will,
cup.
I think.
But it would have been done already. It
Yeah,
would have
it's
been
true.
done had they won that cup. The postseason he had that year,
Remarkable.
yeah, the statue, the number in the rafters, it all would have been done for him had they won the cup that year. It's not appreciated enough. But like you said, he still had, because of that, he still has that much respect here, and he is that much of a legend.
He is, and he's that. And I thought it was a brilliant move to have him go run the Maine Mariners for a while, because I can't think of another franchise, a minor franchise, that has fed more talent into the NHL, specifically the Flyers. I mean, almost exclusively the Flyers, than the Maine Mariners. So that's really where he cut his teeth. When I talk to alumni about him, that the only concern is, does he have the killer instinct? And, I interviewed him. And based on his training, the way that he trained himself, because he knew he was a small guy, the way that he trained himself to become a bona fide NHL player and the way he elevated his game for the playoffs, yeah, he's got that killer instinct. He's got a great smile. It'll charm you to all hell, but he's definitely got some viciousness in him as well. And man, I welcome the Briere era. And I'm also welcoming the goodbye Chuck Fletcher era. I'm totally done with. I was actually okay with Chuck's offseason moves, but there was a press conference he had with Dave Scott this year where I was just like, "Fuck it, I'm bailing on you because you clearly don't understand what this franchise wants and needs, and that's it." And I think Briere does, and they're clearly grooming him to be. He's been around more and more. He's going to be around during the draft, obviously, and when you see him sitting in the seat that he's sitting in, he's a special assistant to the GM at this point.
They made up a role for him to keep him from going to Montreal.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, it was a desperation move because we don't want to lose Danny.
Yeah,
it's funny though. Like you brought up a player that would have had a statue. The guest I have next week would have a statue too if it weren't for the injuries that he suffered.
I know, no, actually, you know what? Listen, man, we're pushing the 40-minute mark, so I gotta tell you what. Go ahead. The floor is yours. You go
Yeah.
ahead. You hype up what you got going on. It's all about you right now. Go ahead,
Uh,
man.
this is the first time I'm a little bit nervous. So eventually I'm going to get Lemieux on. And then that'll be the I'll just lose shit because I was such a Mario fan. When he got Hodgkins, I literally wrote him a letter in the hospital and he wrote back. It was like, Mario's been my favorite player. So when I talk to him, I'm just going to have to excuse myself, like wiping away tears. But then my dad's my favorite player, blah, blah, blah. But my second favorite player was Tim Kerr. And Tim Kerr is a notable recluse, a hermit. He is just not kind of shied away from interviews. And I spoke to him 2 days ago on the phone, and I was like, because here's the thing, you describe me. I'm a fucking fanboy, like all of you are. Like, I for me to talk to the people that I'm talking to, I'm just as excited as you all are. Like, it's a thrill for me. It's not just something that I feel like I'm privileged to do or anything. Like, this is a thrill for me, and I feel like excited to do it. And there's certain guys that I've known my whole life. Like, I've known Schultz my whole life and Bernie my whole life, but Tim Kerr I don't know that well, and I've been a huge the 4 seasons where he scored 50 goals and more, and what the difference he could have made in that legendary series against the Oilers, which was just the most stacked team, but the Flyers fought him so hard, pushed him to 7 games. And yeah, they were missing McCrimmon, but they were missing Kerr. And what a snake-bitten guy he was, because he should have had 600 goals in the NHL. Anyway, long way of saying that Tim Kerr has agreed to come on the podcast. And I think it's his first interview in 25 years. And talking to him, I was just shaking because, again, I went back to and I remember I was listening to it on 6:10 a.m. WIP, the Flyers game 7, and knowing that, man, this team's fighting hard, but Tim Kerr would have made all the difference. Can you only imagine if he had been in that series? And then it's to hear his voice and talk to him for the 5 minutes, and then to be able to spend 45 minutes with him coming up next week. It's just, I have to say, as big of a thrill it has been to talk to Brian Trottier and Grant Fuhr, and I'm not name dropping, like, I'm just saying, like, I'm fucking lucky that I get to talk to these people, and it's really been a thrill. And I'm so appreciative that people are also interested in their stories. But since I started this podcast, other than Lemieux, Tim Kerr has been the guy that I've wanted to have on. And yeah, it's finally going to happen next week. And I could not be more excited.
Yo, guys, my dad used to play hockey podcast. Tim Kerr next week.
Tim fucking Kerr.
Tune in, check it out. Like Zach said, we are fortunate to talk to these people. I've been lucky. I'm a full blown rookie in this. I am on like show number 22 right now. And I have had some incredible guests. Not only Zach's father, Zak Kindrachuk, not only his uncle Bob Strum. I've had Paul Dvorsky, Dave Jackson, 2 of the best officials ever, over 1,500 games, both of them. Theo Fleury came on.
Yeah.
Like, this is truly absolutely an incredible privilege that we have to do this. I feel so fortunate about it. Darren McCarty, Eric McNamara. Zach called Eric McNamara. Yeah. Zach told Eric to fuck off multiple times. Yeah, we've had some absolutely incredible shows this year from the High and Wide Hockey Network, HW at Night. My dad used to play hockey. Just some incredible shows. And honestly, right now I just want to thank the listeners and anybody that tunes in. Like, thank you guys so much. I have in the works a postseason show coming up with a recurring guest on HW at Night, Megan LaMontagne from the Carolina Hurricanes arena host. She's going to be joining me. We're going to be doing a postseason show together.
I love that.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Zach, jump on with us. Come on, talk hockey. yeah, it's gonna be a good time. But anyway, thank you guys so much. We just really appreciate it. It's been a rough season for Flyers fans, but everybody that comes out, listens, hangs out with us, comments, we appreciate it so much. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thanks, buddies.